Hi, Blogging Heads viewers. It's Daniel Strauss of Woodruff and Strauss and Talking Points Memo, and I'm here today with Melissa Quinn, diehard Florida Gators fan and reporter extraordinary for the Daily Signal. And I think we're breaking up a little bit here, but I'm going to keep going forward. So today we're going to do a super quick episode, and I have a little bit of news at the end, and that's that. And this is... You know, Melissa, I don't know where you're in Florida, right?
I'm in Florida. I'm in my sister's room at her desk.
Well, this is the second time Woodruff and Strauss has taped. I think it's the second or third time we've taped in one of my homes. And this Blogging Heads viewers, is my new home, where I live now. So anyway, so today we had all set up for everything, but then right before we started, we had... news broke that Dennis Hastert got in trouble with the feds for paying $3.5 million in hush money over prior misconduct to keep someone quiet about something. An unidentified person silent about prior misconduct. We don't really know very much about what the misconduct was. We know it's shady, and, you know, it's an Illinois politician, so I'm frankly not surprised. You, Melissa, though, had an interesting tangent about Dennis Hastert that we can talk about, which a smart take. So what did you want to say?
So the interesting thing about this stuff with Hastert was that he was structuring money, which means withdrawing under $10,000 in cash consistently, I think over like a 4-year span. And he was doing that to avoid reporting withdrawals of more than $10,000 to the Department of the Treasury.
Right, which would attract attention to his shady ways.
Right, but what a lot of people don't know is withdrawing consistently less than 10 grand also triggers like suspicious reports. So either way, you're kind of in a lose-lose situation there. But a lot of innocent Americans lately have been found guilty, I guess, of these structuring violations and have had a lot of money seized. So I thought that was like an interesting side note to this, you know, big breaking news that
He's
just
the
happened.
everyman. He's just like us. He's just like poorly withdrawing huge amounts of money in the same way we do to try and keep whatever it is he was doing from everyone else.
Yeah, it's just like $3.5 million more than most people have. So I'd say that's the big difference.
I mean, I don't actually know much else to say about this. Hastert was way before my time. I mean, he was before Newt Gingrich. I think he used to be actually like a teacher and coach, and he became, you know, he became the third in line to the presidency. He was pretty powerful back then, and it's sad to see him fall. But at the same time, you know, excuse me, he was chosen to succeed Newt Gingrich as Speaker. He came after, not before. So there you go.
So tangent on that, I also saw someone, I think it was a reporter with CNN, actually snagged Gingrich. He's at a gala in New York now. And they asked him about this, and he, I guess, from the article I was reading, obviously didn't say a single thing. I can't imagine how awkward that was for him.
I don't know. I mean, like, Newt always has something to say. So... I mean, I think we'll make sure to include the link at the bottom of the podcast. But like, whatever, I don't know. Like, I think I salute the reporter for trying to hustle like that, because A, that's smart, and B, like, you never know with Newt. Newt always likes to get attention. Always likes to like say something that's fundamentally strange, or fundamentally surprising. So like. Whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if he did that. So,
and they would have had an awesome scoop there. Newt Gingrich commenting on this huge story, which would have been pretty cool.
But he didn't want to take. So. It's the first time I know of that Newt Gingrich would not want to like get into the national spotlight.
Well, maybe
tomorrow. Womp. So now we can get back to our regularly scheduled programming. There's a big flood in Texas right now, and Ted Cruz, who opposed disaster relief for New Jersey during Hurricane Sandy, is suddenly all for hurricane relief in Texas. All I'm saying is, I don't know. It kind of puts him, I don't know, like, Do you think this is a sign of like rhinoism in Ted Cruz? Someone a little while ago was telling me that Ted Cruz is actually more moderate than he feels. So maybe this supports that claim. I think it's just like it's easier to like vote for austerity when your home state isn't like underwater or like.
Well, yeah. And he's definitely not the only Republican to have voted against Sandy funding and then requested funding for their own state, whether it was previously or after. I think there was like a list of 31 Senate Republicans who voted against the Sandy aid package, like Kelly Ayotte, Lindsey Graham, John Cornyn, also from Texas. So he's not, the only one, I think, to be maybe against it and then for it when it benefits their own state. And Kelly Ayotte, I think, was actually voted against it and then wanted funding for Hurricane Sandy. So it's just a little ironic.
I mean, and Ayotte's up for re-election, but I don't think this would hurt her in nice old New Hampshire. But Cruz, yeah. I think it's interesting. I don't actually. I mean, the thing about Cruz is that like, I don't know. It just like. I mean, the flooding is serious, right?
Yeah. I think 15 people died.
Yeah. And, like, you see what's on TV on that. Like, it's no joke what's going on there. So even, I mean, I think I kind of want to, like, to a degree, I sort of like there's always a breaking point with lawmakers and sort of their partisan leanings, right? Like, I don't think, like, President Obama is not going to tax 100% of all income, despite what Republicans would probably say about that. That's not what he would want to do. And at the same time, I don't think any Republican would say, let's not have any taxes at all. They get awful close, and they might zigzag around it, and they might talk about Reagan, but, like, I don't think so. I think we're sort of, like, at that point with Cruz where it's just his breaking point. He's going to, like, break ranks here. I mean, and the other thing we always bring up on Woodruff and Strauss is that Ted Cruz has sided with Democrats before on a sexual assault bill spearheaded by Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who is the delight and darling of Democrats, and especially Northeastern Democrats. So, like, it's not like it hasn't happened before, but I gotta say, like, it does sort of pit him here in the same, like, world with Chris Christie, and that's kind of not where you want to be, I think, if you want to continue to be the leader of the conservative wing of the Republican Party, which maybe Cruz isn't that, but he's definitely one of the paladins or, the big head honchos up there.
Well, and I think if he wants to remain true to his, fiscal conservative roots and kind of remain a Tea Party darling, which he definitely has and continues to be, he can, make sure that there's certain provisions if a federal aid package, does come to fruition and goes before Congress, like that would differentiate it from the Sandy package. So, I mean, nothing has even been brought up yet. So with, if Congress does end up allocating money for these floods, it would be interesting to see how much and kind of what's in it as well. So I think there's still a lot that.
So you think there could be he could create some wiggle room to be austere as he gets federal money to save his state?
Yeah, well, I mean, the big thing with the Sandy bill, and one of the things that he really spoke out against, was that it was just filled with completely unnecessary spending that had nothing to do really with like emergency disaster relief. I think like it was 23 or less than 20 billion of the $60 billion package actually went directly to the victims and businesses and homes that were destroyed by Sandy. So I think there's a way for him to still come out in support of his state while also remaining true to his fiscally conservative roots. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but he is also running for president. So that definitely is like a fun twist.
I don't want to make you say anything, but like I'm going to say here that like he's running for president in a state that has what I think are likely two presidential candidates. So you got to watch your back in the same way that like I feel like especially Marco Rubio in Florida has to watch what he does because he's got Jeb in the same state. Jeb doesn't have to do shit though because he's not an elected official anymore. He's a private citizen. So it doesn't really matter. But Cruz, something like that would matter, and he does open himself up to, I guess, sort of a vulnerability on this from another likely presidential candidate who's actually pretty conservative. I mean, no, not actually. Perry's very conservative. So, yeah.
Well, and he is someone definitely, as a former governor, I mean, he's obviously going to come out and I'm sure speak out against the flooding. And it'll be interesting to watch him and kind of see what way he goes. Because, like you said, he's not going to have a vote on the record about it, but that's not to stop him from
he has to weigh in
exactly.
in some way about it. Yeah. I'll give you that. I don't like, there's not a lot of cover also because there aren't any, I don't think there are any statewide elected Democrats in Texas. They're all, I mean, there's some big names. They're the Castro brothers and the mayor of Houston, Anise Parker. But those are all, aren't statewide. Those are city or congressional districts. So it's all up to Republicans to fix this. There's no cover. They can't go and be like, hey, our Democratic colleagues who we need on this wanted this, and we just had to go along with it. We didn't have another choice. There's none of that. And Greg Abbott he
definitely did bring in the whole Texas delegation. I mean, he blatantly said, all of us, every single last one of us, whether it's a member of the House or, the two senators, we all are in agreement that, there should be federal funding. So he kind of I feel like he shifted the onus a little bit to just being on him to saying, us as a delegation, we're coming together and we're calling for federal funding.
Right. I mean, I guess that gives him a little cover. Not a lot. And it makes him seem like a leader, which is one of the things he wants to do right now. And it's especially important for Ted Cruz because, everybody hates Ted, which I think was a clip from one of our past episodes, right?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, everybody, that's what everybody says, that everybody in Congress, despises Ted Cruz. Being able to say something like, I brought these people together, that contradicts that notion, right? And that's something he needs to do right now.
And Democrats and Republicans. I mean, it would definitely be bipartisan.
I think it's going to be harder for, it'll be bipartisan. It puts Democrats in a bind here because I don't think there are many people Democrats would like to put in a bind more or to spark infighting than Ted Cruz. But, that's it. So, good points. I want to move on to a completely different topic. We've been hitting gay marriage a lot lately. But a victory for opponents of gay marriage, and I guess gay rights, I don't know, is that there was this recent study by a professor published in Science, the journal, by a professor at Columbia University and a professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, which said basically that people's beliefs or feelings on gay marriage can be changed by just a few face-to-face conversations. And the thing about this is most studies and most research has shown people's opinions can rarely be changed on things. This study basically implied that you just need to talk to gay people a few times and you'll be for gay marriage. But it turns out the study was flopped. I want to say, I previously wrote a story, and we hit this in the last Blogging Heads, about gay adoptions and how there's higher support for gay adoption. So gay couples adopting a child and having responsibility over their life than actual gay marriage. And part of this from actually I think it was a UCLA demographer, but it wasn't the same guy.
I hope not.
No, it was not actually. Who basically said that he basically said that gay adoptions are allowed in federal courts rather than through sort of state initiatives or referendums. So it's easier for gay couples who may not be married to adopt a child, and people can see that the world doesn't end around that. So this study sort of, or the spirit behind the failure of this study contradicts that, but at the same time, I guess I don't know. What do you think? But like, I personally equate this to like, people are less likely to be racist if they know black people, as terrible as it is to say, like, my best friend is black or something like that. And I just feel like this is sort of the same way, but the study sort of sets that claim back. What do you think?
So, I mean, I first heard about this study, I think like a lot of people did, on an episode of This American Life, which is like I'm obsessed with it. But I remember I was listening to it on the Metro, and I was like thinking when they talked about how they were able to convince, I think it was about Prop 8 in California, those who voted in favor of Prop 8 to change their vote essentially. And I remember listening and thinking like, wow, that makes so much sense. Like, you go into someone's home and you say, like, let's sit down and just have an honest conversation. And I think they even, well, in the study, so again, this is all just anecdotally. Yeah, I don't know how much is true, but they did say like, tell me how you feel about being with your husband or your wife. Aren't you in love? And then, do you know anybody who's gay? And wouldn't you want that same love, like them to be able to experience that, have that same love, and then be able to express it through marriage? And just hearing that, and then hearing kind of the respondents talk about how they wanted all those things, I thought was pretty amazing. And I thought, not only on the gay marriage subject, but like they talked about abortion and just on a whole host of issues. I think it would have been really awesome if you could have taken the findings of that study and replicated it across a whole variety of issues.
Yeah.
So it's kind of unfortunate and kind of also mind-blowing to me that I think the study came out in December, but it's a little crazy to me that it took, almost June, so 6 months for someone to be like, hey, let's replicate this study. Like, isn't that one of the first things that you do? I mean,
yeah, I mean, it is like, I don't know. I kind of get the sense that like the claim has been taken too much as conventional wisdom, so no one would like even want to check that. Like, it's just like so easy. Of course, gay people, if you know gay people, you're more likely to be for gay marriage. But clearly that was sloppily done here. I don't understand. Like, the other thing I don't understand, and I guess this is just sort of connects to just like plagiarism and fabrication in general. I just don't get why people like researchers and reporters or anyone in charge of like creating and reporting something would ever make something up, because the risk is so high and the reward is never that great. Like, you never hear about, I mean, I guess like Stephen Glass is like the best example, but he was not up for like a Pulitzer or something.
No, but even now, how many years ago did that happen? And I read an article about 90s. Him like lately where he is struggling to get people to go to bat for him so he can pass the California bar.
No,
like,
I thought he gave up on that because the California Bar Association said that
they wouldn't allow him to become a member, whatever people do with attorneys.
Yeah.
Become a member of the bar.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, right, so that's the thing. This guy's, I think, I mean, at least in the academic community, because it's much more closed off than, like, the guy with the most crazy stories for the pompous liberal magazine. I used to have friends there, but now all of them are gone, so, I think it's, I don't understand. I just feel like, though, for gay rights advocates, this is a bigger blow than it is for even like gay marriage opponents or people who are pushing religious freedom legislation. And I think Betsy would want to get into me with this on this with me, because it doesn't really help like the claim of people. I mean, like right now, these religious freedom laws that protect businesses and people from objecting, from being punished for objecting to being involved in gay unions is like the du jour topic, or the topic du jour right now. I feel like this doesn't help them at all, but it hurts people who are pushing gay rights and say things like, we need to integrate gay people. We need to make sure they have the same rights to marry and have children and be able to see them at the hospital and all that stuff. I feel like the failure of this study hurts them more than the other way around.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see. Well, number one, don't forget about the Supreme Court decision, because I think that that's obviously obviously by far would trump the fact that they had to retract this study. But I'm kind of interested to see if any of the like grassroots organizations who are pro gay rights kind of use some of the conversational tactics like they continue to, because to me it makes sense that like, and obviously this takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of time to be able to like go to someone who may be against gay marriage and go into their home and sit down with them and convince them to vote for or against like some sort of gay marriage legislation. But I feel like there's still something to learn from the study, even though it was retracted, because I'm wondering, like, they had recorded conversations with
Right.
voters, I'm assuming those are real people. So,
but
like,
you don't
does
know.
that
We
all
don't know
mean that's
anymore. No,
fake?
I mean the whole study's tainted, right? So like anything in there now can't be trusted, no matter how useful or true the information is. So that's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
What was crazy today, also related to this, is, as far as we're getting out all the news on gay marriage, is that in North Carolina, the Republican-controlled House there passed legislation that would protect ministers from having to ratify gay weddings. And Pat McCrory, no rhino, who's been really opposed to a lot of the religious freedom bills going on, said he would veto that legislation when it came to his desk, which is crazy. And it's like bizarre to me because Pat McCrory, again, this is the guy who had the motorcycle abortion law. I mean, he's one of the guys that abortion rights activists like despise because he's rolled back the amount of like abortion clinics in the state of North Carolina. But here he is, like saying, "I'm not going to like help you guys on this gay rights or this religious freedom stuff or like stuff prevent that opponents of gay marriage feel that is a necessary change."
Mm-hmm. I mean, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. I almost feel like it's a little bit too far to say that this is a setback, just because there are so many other things going on, both at the state and the federal level. But hey, you should go door to door and talk to people and ask them if they think this is a setback, just like they did in the study.
Yeah, like they did in the study. Okay. Now, this is the last topic that I wanted to get to today. It is on something dear to both of our hearts as alumna of big, prestigious public universities. In-state tuition, man, it's on the rise. It's on the rise fast. And as I've mentioned to basically everyone I ever meet ever, I went to the University of Michigan. And the thing about Michigan is that I think when I went, I was an out-of-state student, so tuition cost $40,000 a year for me, and I think about half that for in-state students. And the thing is, and that's an expensive school. I went to the University of Missouri my freshman year, and I got in-state tuition because of a scholarship, and I think it cost something like $10,000 a year. But so Michigan is basically a public school or a private school either way.
Wait, how much was your tuition at Michigan?
$40,000 a year.
What?
Yeah. Well, it was out of state.
Oh, okay, never mind. Wait, I knew that.
Yeah. So I don't know about yours, but like the idea of like in-state tuition rising is insane to me. I mean, that's just like bonkers, man. So we're going to link to, in this report, this Upshot post by Kevin Carey on this. And he says at one point in here, the University of Berkeley enrolled 384 fewer in-state freshmen in 2012 compared with 2000, while out-of-state students grew by more than 300, and the number of international students increased eightfold. Sorry. That was my phone. This happened at the same time that in-state tuition and fees increased to $13,000 from $3,964. Increased from $13,000 from $3,000. It was $4,000, and then in a span of 12 years, it increased by $10,000. That is a huge sum of money for an avenue to getting a top-notch education for poor people that can't afford to send their kids to like Yale or out of state. It's insane, Melissa. It's bonkers.
I was actually really upset when I read this article because my tuition per semester was like $3,000 when I was a freshman.
Wow.
And now I looked up the stats on the University of Florida, near and dear to my heart, and tuition right now is $6,000, and I graduated 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So in not that long of a time, it's really increased a lot. And it also made me really sad that schools are not saving as many spots, I guess, for in-state students, and they're preferring out-of-state and international students, which to me is just, that really hurts my feelings.
It's insane. And at the same time, I kind of get like the core of the incentives, like to be in a competitive school. It's not just enough to have good programs, because like I even remember this when I was looking at colleges. I was kind of attracted to the perks. It was like, ooh, they have a spa, and look, this is a 4-star dorm that doubles as a hotel for foreign dignitaries.
And an awesome football team.
Yeah, and an awesome. No, it was never awesome. But like the perks are expensive, right? Yeah. But it's really complicated at the same time, because like boosters for the University of Michigan program want to give money directly to the football program. They don't want to give money for scholarships or that other stuff. So it's insane.
But then the other thing too is that obviously out-of-state tuition, like you just said, for Michigan is so much more than in-state. So it does make sense that when you have all of these like perks and big athletic fields and things to pay for, you're going to want to attract the student that's going to put more money into the university by him or herself, as opposed to just a little old in-state person.
Well, I'm very much like a fan of public colleges, partially because when I went, like I'd only gone to private colleges up until college.
And I mean, it makes sense to them as from like a university standpoint, to want to attract more out-of-state and international students, just because they can get more money from them than they can for the in-state students. Doesn't make it right, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but like it impinges on the core mission. Like Michigan's new president, like the first thing he said was like, we need to pay attention to tuition because that's a serious problem. And the founders of Michigan said they wanted to create an uncommon education for the common man. But at this point, you're not really doing that, buddy. Like, no one can afford, I mean, most people can't afford sending their kid with like a B average or something to a $40,000 school where they'll probably do pretty well in class, but they're also going to spend time drinking and goofing off and being like your average college student. It's kind of ridiculous. So I think this is something that needs to be paid attention to. I don't think we're going to hear about this in the 2016 cycle very much. I know President Obama has done a little on that, and he announced incentives for schools that kept tuitions low. But obviously that hasn't been enough so far, because tuitions are still on the rise dramatically, and the tuition is too damn high.
That was a really good plug.
Yeah. So that's all we've got, Melissa. I hope we can splice this together. I want to announce to Blogging Heads viewers that I'm going to be taking a little hiatus. Betsy and I are going to keep the program going. There are going to be a few changes going on right now with me. So I'm just going to be doing that for a little bit, and then I will be back. But we're probably going to have a regular sub in. I think we're going to do Jim Newell or someone else. And we'll be doing that. The name won't change. Nothing will change. But Melissa, for the moment, you're the last guest on Woodruff and Strauss to go against me for a little while.
Aww.
All right. Well, thanks so much for this sort of last-minute Blogging Heads. This was fun. I hope we can have you on again. I will talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.